Well, hello everyone. It's a bit chilly and dark out here, and I wanted to come. I've been traveling, and I'm glad to be back. And I just wanted to say hello to you and come as I would in the period of the Little Lame Prince. I'm going to put my lantern down here. I've lit a candle to read, and I've got my trusty cane to protect myself in case of the robber attacks or brigands. And I've got my a real Tyrolean traveling cloak. It's a cape. Show it one more time at the end. And my traveling hat, which I'm going to take off now that I'm inside a room, which is very impolite in the 18th century to wear a hat in a room. So welcome all of you to today's reading. We're going to read about the Little Lame Prince again. I'm glad to have you all with us. I'm going to get up for a moment. You can see my cloak again, traveling cloak, and we're going to read about the Little Lame Prince's traveling cloak. Mine's not as magic as his, but it's very warm and fun, and it comes from Austria, from Salzburg. So now that the musicians have left the room, we can read without interruption. I'm very appreciative of the court musicians. They are very wonderful and very skilled, and they love coming by and playing for you. But today we need to read, and I want to make sure you can hear me, and they want to make sure that you can hear them. And they may not be heard if I'm reading. So here we are. We're today going to read in chapter 4. It's a funny kind of day. It's raining outside, and it's kind of cold but not freezing, and it's not warm, and the house is not that warm, but it's too warm for a fire. So I thought, reading a little contemporary, I would do something that's a throwback to something that would have happened around the court of the Little Lame Prince. This is a mug I got. It's from the British Trust, and it says, Her Ladyship, and there's another one that says, His Lordship, but the Ladyship one I gave to Twyla, and I'd share it with you. And today, instead of hot tea, because it's Wednesday, and it should be dress down day, but it isn't today because I'm wearing my cloak. Her Ladyship mug is filled with hot chocolate instead of tea, which I'm sure all of you really enjoy. I like it just as much. Although it's so warm, it's iced hot chocolate, if you can imagine. It's like a magical potion. I'm going to take a sip and we'll start. That was really good. I have my candle lit here. This is how you would have read in the 18th century. By candlelight, not by electric light. But fortunately I have electric light today. So you can see me and I can see you. And I'm going to keep this lit and I'll have it right here so I can see to leave when I'm done. Alright, so today, as you remember, the Little Lame Prince was written in 1877, but it's describing an earlier time when there were lords and ladies and princes and princesses. And yesterday, as you remember, Little Lame Prince, who couldn't walk, was imprisoned in this high tower. And yesterday, this little old lady in gray, who really loved him and who became his godmother, appears to him and comes to visit him. And I'm going to read just a little bit of the last chapter, then we'll go on to chapter 4. Are you she comes, "Hurrah," cried the little prince, "I'm glad I belong to you. I like you very much. Will you come and play with me?" So they sat down together and played. By and by, they began to talk. "Are you very dull here?" asked the little old woman. "Not particularly, thank you, godmother. I have plenty to eat and drink and my lessons to do and my books to read, lots of books. And you want nothing." "Nothing, yes, perhaps. If you please, godmother, could you bring me just one more thing?" "What sort of thing?" godmother replied. a little boy to play with. The old woman looked very sad. Just the thing, alas, which I cannot give you, my child. I cannot alter your lot in any way, but I can help you to bear it. Thank you. But why do you talk of bearing it? I have nothing to bear. My poor little man, said the old woman in very tenderest tone of her tender voice, kiss me. What is kissing? Asked the wondering child. His godmother took him in her arms, embraced him many times, and by he kissed her back again, at first awkwardly and shyly, then with all the strength of his warm little heart. You are better to cuddle than even my white kitten, I think. Promise that you will never go away. She replies, I must, but I will leave a present behind me, something as good as myself to amuse you, something that you will take wherever you want to go and show all that you wish to see. What is it? A traveling cloak. The prince's countenance fell. I don't want or need a cloak. I never go out. Sometimes nurse hoists me onto the roof and carries me around by the parapet, but that's all. I can't walk, you know, as she does. The more reason that you should ride, and besides, this traveling cloak. Hush, she's coming, said the prince. There sounded outside the room door a heavy step and a grumpy voice with the rattle of plates and dishes, as usual. It's my nurse, and she's bringing my dinner. But I don't want dinner at all. I only want you. Will her coming drive you away, godmother? Perhaps, but only for a little while. Never mind, all the bolts and bars in the world couldn't keep me out. I'd fly in at the window or down through the chimney. Only wish for me and I come. Thank you, said Prince Dolar, but almost in a whisper. Thank you, said Prince Dolar, but almost in a whisper, for he was very uneasy what would happen next. His nurse and his godmother, what would they say to one another? How would they look at one another? Two such different faces, one harsh-lined, sullen, cross, and sad. The other sweet and bright and calm as a summer evening before the dark begins. When the door was flung open, Prince Dolar shut his eyes, trembling all over and shaking. Opening them again, he saw he need fear nothing. His lovely old godmother had melted away just like the rainbow out of the sky, as he watched it many a time. Nobody but his nurse was in the room. What a muddle your Royal Highness is sitting in, she said sharply. Such a heavy untidy. Such a heap of untidy books, and what's this rubbish? Knocking a little bundle that lay beside him. Oh, nothing, nothing. Give it to me, cried the prince. And darting after it, he hid it under his pinafore, and then pushed it quickly into his pocket. Rubbish as it was left in the place where she sat. It might be something belonging to her, his dear, kind godmother, whom already he loved with all his lonely, tender, passionate heart. It was, though he did not know this, his wonderful traveling cloak. So we're going to stop here, and I think there are a couple of things I want you to think about. The description of him being in the tower and never being hugged and learning what it means to be kissed is a bit like a lot of us are feeling right now. You children are probably okay because you've got your brothers and sisters, but if you're an only child with your parents, you're not seeing your friends, and if you are, you have to distance yourself from them. My daughter and husband visited me the other day, and they sterilized themselves enough so that I could get a hug. I just needed a hug. I'm an extrovert, and this kind of isolation is like prison for me. And it was just so nice to have a touch from a human person that loves me. And that's what the little prince was longing for, and that's what he experienced with the godmother. And now we're going to learn about the traveling cloak, and then I'll tell you again about what I'm wearing. And then I have a piece of artwork I want you to look at, which I've showed you before, but I'm going to repeat it because it's especially poignant for now, where we are right now in this epidemic. So one more drink of my hot iced chocolate. It's magic, it's hot and iced at the same time. And it's not tea that's hot, but chocolate. So my tea is chocolate, it's iced and it's hot. Quite a magic drink. And the cup belongs to his ladyship. Chapter 4. What of the traveling cloak? What sort of cloak was it, and what good did it do the prince? Stay, and I'll tell you all about it. So here we go. Outside the cloak is the commonest looking bundle imaginable, shabby and small. And the instant Prince Dolor touched it, it grew smaller still, dwindling down till he could put it in his trouser pocket, like a handkerchief rolled up into a ball. He did this at once for fear his nurse should see it, and kept it there all day and all night too. Till after his next morning's lessons, he had no opportunity of examining his treasure. He had to keep hiding it. When he did, it seemed no treasure at all, but a mere piece of cloth, circular in form, dark green in color, that is, if it had any color at all, being so worn and shabby, though not dirty. It had a split cut to the center, forming a round hole for the neck, and that was all its shape. The shape, in fact, of those cloaks, which in South America are called ponchos. I have sort of a poncho on under here, and that's kind of what it was like. But it's a combination of my hoodie from my hoodie from Nike and my traveling cape or cloak. The ones in South America are called ponchos, very simple but most graceful and convenient. That's the way this coat is. And also my Nike poncho. Prince Dolor had never seen anything like it. In spite of his disappointment, he examined it curiously, spread it out on the floor, then arranged it on his shoulders. It felt very warm and comfortable. But it was so exceedingly shabby, the only shabby thing that the prince had ever seen in his life. And what use will it be to me, said he, sadly. I have no need of outdoor clothes, as I never go out. Why was this given me, I wonder, and what in the world am I to do with it? She must be a rather funny person, this dear godmother of mine. Nevertheless, because she was his godmother and had given him the cloak, he folded it carefully and put it away, poor and shabby as it was, hiding it in a safe corner in his toy cupboard, which his nurse never meddled with. He did not want her to find it, or to laugh at it, or at his godmother, as he felt sure she would if she knew all. There it lay, and by he forgot all about it. Nay, I'm sorry to say that, being but a child, and not seeing her again, he almost forgot his sweet old godmother, or thought of her only as he did of the angels or fairies that he read of in his books, and of her visit as if it had been a mere dream of the night. You know, that's sometimes how we feel about people we love or we've lost when they pass away. At times it seems like it's just a dream that it even happened. That's true of a lot of things in our memory. Let me go on. There were times certainly when he recalled her of early mornings, like that morning when she appeared beside him, and late evenings when the gray twilight reminded him of the color of her hair and her pretty soft garments. Above all, when waking in the middle of the night with the stars peering in at his window or the moonlight shining across his little bed, he would not have been surprised to see her standing there beside it, looking at him with those beautiful, tender eyes which seemed to have pleasantness and comfort in them, far different from anything he had ever known. But she never came. Gradually she slipped out of his memory, only a boy's memory after all, until something happened which made him remember her and want her as he had never wanted anything before. Prince Stoller fell ill. He caught his nurse, could not tell how, He caught his nurse could not tell how a complaint common to the prince had a complaint common to the people of no man's land called the doldrums. You ever heard your parents call "I'm in the doldrums"? My mother used that a lot. It may be kind of an old-fashioned word. It means kind of like you're depressed. We are in the doldrums right now, everyone. This is what we're going through. So let's keep reading, because this is so relevant to today. I cannot believe it. The affliction of no man's land was called the doldrums, as unpleasant as measles or any other of our complaints, and it made him restless, cross, and disagreeable. Everybody connecting? Even when a little better, he was too weak to enjoy anything, but lay all day long on his sofa, fidgeting his nurse extremely, while in her intense terror lest he might die, she fidgeted him still more. At last, seeing he was really getting well, she left him to himself, which he was most glad of in spite of his dullness and dreariness. There he lay alone, quite alone. How many nights do you go to bed thinking about that, feeling that way? I do. Now and then an irritable fit came over him, in which he longed to get up and do something or go somewhere. Would have liked to imitate his white kitten, jump down from the tower and run away, and taking the chance of whatever might happen. The little lame prince wanted adventure, of course. Only thing, alas, was likely to happen for the kitten, he remembered, had 4 active legs. I wonder what my godmother meant when she looked at my legs and sighed so bitterly. I wonder why I can't walk straight and steady like my nurse. Only I wouldn't like to have her great noisy clumping shoes. Still, it would be very nice to move about quickly, perhaps to fly like a bird, like that string of birds I saw the other day skimming across the sky, one after the other. He's dreaming of walking. We're dreaming of being able to go see our friends and go out without a mask. A little more tea. How nice it must be to be like a bird. If legs are no good, why can't one have wings? People have wings when they die, perhaps, like angels. I wish I were dead, but I do. I am so tired, and nobody cares for me. Nobody ever did care for me except perhaps my godmother. Godmother dear, have you quite forsaken me? He stretched himself wearily, gathered himself up, and dropped his head upon his hands. As he did so, he felt somebody kiss him at the back of his neck, and turning, found that he was resting, not on the sofa pillows, but on a warm shoulder, that of a little old woman clothed in gray. How glad he was to see her, how he looked into her kind eyes and felt her hands, to see if she were all alive and real. Then put both his hands round her neck and kissed her as if he would never have done kissing, as if he would never stop kissing. Stop, stop, cried she, pretending to be smothered. I see you have not forgotten my teaching. Kissing is a good thing, but in moderation. Only just let me have breath to speak one word. 12, he said. Well then, tell me all that has happened to you since I saw you, or rather since you saw me, which is quite a different thing. Nothing has happened. Nothing ever does happen to me, answered the prince dolefully. Does that sound familiar? And are you very dull, my boy? So dull that I was just thinking whether I should not jump down to the bottom of the tower like my white kitten. Don't do that, not being a white kitten. I wish I were anything but what I am. and you can't make yourself any different, nor can I do it either. You must be content to stay just where you are. The little old woman said this very firmly, but gently too, with her arms round his neck and her lips on his forehead. It was the first time the boy had ever heard of anyone talk like this, and he looked up in surprise, but not in pain, for her sweet manner softened the hardness of her words. Now, my prince, for you are a prince, and must behave as such, let us see what we can do. How much can I do for you, or show you how to do it for yourself? Where is your traveling cloak? Prince Stolar blushed extremely. I put it away in the cupboard. I suppose it's still there. You have never used it? You dislike it? He hesitated, not wishing to be impolite. Don't you think it's just a little old and shabby for a prince? The old woman laughed, long and loud, though very sweetly. Prince indeed. Why, if all the princes in the world craved for it, and they couldn't get it unless I gave it to them. Old and shabby? It's the most valuable thing imaginable. Very few ever have it, but I thought I would give it to you because you are different from other people. Am I? Said the prince, and looked first with curiosity, then sort of anxiety into his godmother's face, which was sad and grave, with slow tears beginning to steal down her face. She touched his poor little legs. These are not like those of other little boys. Indeed, my nurse never told me that. Very likely not. But it is time you were told, and I tell you because I love you. Tell me what, dear godmother? That you will never be able to walk or run or jump or play. That your life will be quite different to most people's lives. But it may be a very happy life for all that. Do not be afraid. I am not afraid, said the boy, but he turned very pale and his lips began to quiver, though he did not actually cry, for he was too old for that and perhaps too proud. Though not wholly comprehending, he began dimly to guess what his godmother meant. He had never seen any real live boys, but he had seen pictures of them running and jumping, which he had admired and tried hard to imitate, but always failed. Now he began to understand why he failed, and that he always should fail, that, in fact, he was not like other little boys. It was of no use his wishing to do as they did, and play as they played, even if he had them to play with. His was a separate life in which he must find out new work and new pleasures for himself. Just like growing up. The sense of the inevitable, as grown-up people call it, that we cannot have things as we want them to be, but as they are, that we must learn to bear them and make the best of them. This lesson, which everybody has to learn sooner or late, came, alas, sadly soon to the poor boy. He fought against it for a while, and then, quite overcome, turned and sobbed bitterly in his godmother's arms. She comforted him. I do not know how, except that love always comforts. And then she whispered to him in her sweet, strong, cheerful voice, never mind. No, I don't think I do mind, that is, I won't mind, replied he, catching the courage of her tone and speaking like a man, though he was still a mere boy. That is right, my prince, that is being like a prince. Now we know exactly where we are. And now that we know it, let us put our shoulders to the wheel, and we are in a hopeless tower. This was its name, if it had a name. And there is no wheel to put our shoulder to, said the child sadly. You little matter-of-fact goose, said the godmother. Well, for you, that you have a godmother called, what? He eagerly asked. Stuff and Nonsense. Stuff and Nonsense? What a funny name. Some people give it to me, but they are not my most intimate friends. These call me never mind what, added the old woman, with a soft twinkle in her eye. So as you know this, so as you know me and know me well, you may give me any name you please, it doesn't matter, but I am your godmother, child. I have few godchildren. Those I have love me dearly and find me the greatest blessing in all the world. I can well believe it, cried the little lame prince. Forgot his troubles in looking at her as her figure dilated. Her eyes grew lustrous as stars. Her very raiment brightened, and the whole room seemed filled with her beautiful and beneficent presence like light. He could have looked at her forever, half in love, half in awe. But she suddenly dwindled down into the little old woman all in gray. With a malicious twinkle in her eyes, asked for the traveling cloak. Bring it out of the rubbish cupboard and shake the dust off it quick, she said to Prince Dolar, who hung his head rather ashamed. Spread it out on the floor and wait till the split closes and the edge turn up like a rim all around. Then go open the skylight. Mind I say, open the skylight. Set yourself down in the middle of it like a frog on a water lily leaf. Say abracadabra, doom, 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 and see what will happen. The prince burst into a fit of laughing. It all seemed so exceedingly silly. He wondered that a wise old woman like his godmother should talk such nonsense. Stuff and nonsense, you mean, said she, answering to his great alarm his unspoken thoughts. Did I not tell you that some people call me by that name? Never mind, it doesn't harm me. Like there's an old saying, Victorian saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, which is not true. And she laughed, her merry laugh, as childlike as if she were the prince's age instead of her own, whatever that might be. She certainly, Punky, why are you attacking me? I think Punky's attacking a fly that landed on my leg. She certainly was a most extraordinary old woman. Believe me or not, it doesn't matter, she said. Here is the cloak, and you want to go traveling on it. Say abracadabra, doom, doom, doom. And you want to come back again, say abracadabra, toom, toom, tea. That's all. Goodbye. A puff of pleasant air passing by him and making him feel for the moment quite strong and well was all the prince was conscious of. His most extraordinary godmother was gone. Really now, how rosy your Royal Highness's cheeks have grown, the nurse said. You seem to have got well already, as she entered the room. I think I have, replied the prince, very gently. He felt gently and kindly, even to his grim nurse. Now, please let me have my dinner and go you to your sewing as usual. The instant she was gone, however, taking with her plates and dishes, which for the first time since his illness he had satisfactorily cleared, Prince Dolar sprang down from his sofa and with one or two of his frog-like jumps, not graceful but convenient, he reached the cupboard where he kept his toys and looked everywhere for his traveling cloak. Alas, it was not there. While he was ill of the doldrums, his nurse, thinking a good opportunity for putting things to rights, had made a grand clearance of all his quote-unquote rubbish, as she considered it. His beloved headless horses, broken carts, sheep without feet, and birds without wings, all the treasures of his baby days which he could not bear to part with. Though he seldom played with them now, he liked just to feel they were there. They were all gone, and with them the traveling cloak. He sat down on the floor looking at the empty shelves, so beautifully clean and tidy, and then burst out sobbing as if his heart would break. But quietly, always quietly. He never let his nurse hear him cry. She would only laugh at him, as he felt she would laugh now. And it is all my own fault, he cried. I ought to have taken better care of my godmother's gifts. Oh, godmother, forgive me. I'd never be so careless again. I don't know what the cloak is exactly, but I'm sure it's something precious. Help me to find it again. Oh, don't let it be stolen from me. Don't, please, don't. Ah, laughed the silvery voice. Why, that traveling cloak is the one thing in the world which nobody can steal. It's of no use to anybody except the owner. Open your eyes, my prince, and see what you shall see. His dear old godmother, he thought, and turned eagerly around, but no. He only beheld lying in the corner of the room, all dust and cobwebs, his precious traveling cloak. Prince Dolar darted toward it, tumbling several times on the way, as he often did tumble, poor boy. Picked himself up again, never complaining. Snatching it to his breast, he hugged and kissed it, cobwebs and all, and as if it had been something alive. Then he began unrolling it, wondering each moment what would happen. But what did happen was so curious that I must leave it for the next chapter, for another time. So we will see you tomorrow at 3, and we'll be reading chapter 5. Tomorrow is Thursday. Tomorrow's Thursday, and we will be reading chapter 5. So thank you for coming today and for being with me. And someday we'll be able to even keep track of the days. It's not failing memory, it's just that there are no markers anymore. So we're not going to work or going to school, we're at home, and every day is like the description of the doldrums. Well, I have my traveling cloak on. I'll show it to you once more. It's actually a cape. It's made out of green Loden wool from Austria. I found it in the thrift store. It was $10 and almost new, but old, and very well worn and cared for. And this is a Tyrolean hat, and my trusty cane with a sword, and I must take a lantern. I've got to blow out the candle. Always blow out a candle after you read. Don't go to bed at night. You know, this candle holder is really wonderful. This is one, like if I were going to bed now and it was time to go to bed, this is how I would find my way up the stairs to my bedroom. I would carry this with me, and I would have matches up there so I could light it in the night if I had to get up and be able to come down before the sunrise. So I'm going to blow this out because I'm not ready to go to bed yet, and say goodbye to you. But since it's getting dark, I need to take my lantern. This is the only way I could see to get home, or get back home after I go out. I've been invited out to dinner, theoretically, which is in my kitchen. And then I will be back to sit by the fireside and read you a story from The Horse and His Boy. Thank you all for joining me. It's wonderful to see you. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thanks again. Thank you all, my wonderful friends.